Well, hello there. Have you missed us? I know I certainly have missed you. It has been far too long since we've done a video, but let's rectify that right now as we're getting ready to talk about the 5 best tips for new collectors. Yes, what's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It has been far too long since we've done a video, and for that, before we get started, I have to apologize because I thought, I was going to be able to put out some content, weekly, and I was just going to be able to throw all that stuff out there, but I gotta say, hats off to you content creators out there that continually put stuff out day by day, week after week. It's a lot of work, and I wasn't anticipating that. So I do want to say sorry that it took so long to get this next video out, because being a full-time dad, dog dad that is, being a full-time husband, having a full-time job, and a full-time collector, it takes its toll, and you run out of time to get things done. But you know what? We have some time today, so let's get into this. But before we do that, as I've said, our whole goal for 2021 is to get 2,021 subscribers. So if you've not done that already, if you've not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and give me a presumptive like, but also subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications, because without your help, we'll never get there. So we're very, very close. As of right now, we're just shy of 1,900 subscribers, which is incredible. So let's try to get us over the finish line. We have just about a month and a half left to get that remaining 121 subscribers or so, and I certainly believe we can get to that. But now, let's get to the meat of what we're talking about today. Yes, that is true. The 5 best tips for new collectors. Now you may say, okay, I'm not a new collector, I'm an experienced collector, so you can just go ahead and check yourself out. That's not the case at all. There may be some things that you've learned today that can be applied to your collecting now, because maybe you're in a little bit of a rut. Maybe you're kind of disappointed with some of the things that you've been doing and you want to get back to the joy of collecting. I think we can certainly get there today by looking at these 5 tips for collecting. So let's get into this with number 1. The first tip I would say is to never start your collection with previously issued items. Now, a couple videos ago, I gave you a tease that I was going to be talking about the dangers of collecting backwards. Well, I'm going to speed that up right now and tell you about some of the dangers of collecting backwards. And as a new collector, that is something you certainly want to avoid. The truth of the matter is that once you start collecting and you find things that you're really into, you naturally want to gravitate out, get some more things to continually build your collection. But the dangers of collecting backwards is that all these things that have been previously released, such as this lovely figure here, Darkside Anakin Skywalker, is in low supply but high demand, which means the prices are going to be a lot more than retail. And as a new collector, when you're first starting out, that is not the way you want to start your collection. You do not want to be taking off giant chunks out of your bank account to try to get 1 figure here, 2 figures there, because if that is the case and you're not really happy with it, you can sour on collecting very, very quickly, because you'll be like, wow, I paid X amount of money for this. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, and now I don't want to collect any more of these at all. So one of the things I can highly recommend is that don't collect backwards. We can talk about this a little bit later on, but always collect with something that is in stock and ready to ship. Because if you're just starting out in your collection, why don't you get a few pieces in to see if you really like this? I know that we get into this idea of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, or you have this idea of, wow, let me try this, I see other people are collecting it, I'm gonna jump in both feet first and to see what happens as well. And by doing those, you may end up drowning because you're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So, as you've heard many people say before, go ahead and start out by grabbing something that is in stock. That way you can get it, you don't have to wait on it, because as we've talked about before, whenever these figures are announced, it sometimes takes 2 years for them to show up on your shelf. And if that is the case, let's go ahead and get something to see if this is really something you want to pursue, if it's something you want to continue doing, because I promise you, once you have something in your hand, then you can make the estimate on whether or not you want to continue. With that being said, let's switch over to number 2, and that is be patient with what you're looking for and take the time to find what you really want. Now, with figures like this, or if you're collecting backwards, or if you say, oh wow, a new Spider-Man movie is coming out, then you run to get whatever you can find. And sometimes whenever the hype is really, really high, the prices are going to be really, really high too. And that idea of FOMO, that idea of the fear of missing out, saying, oh man, a new Spider-Man movie is coming, what am I going to do? I need to go and get a Spider-Man figure right now. Everyone else is looking for Spider-Man figures too, so that means the prices are going to be up. So what I can tell you is this: be patient if you're truly collecting and wait for the best deal possible. Don't go and get something at the height of its popularity, because naturally you're going to overpay for that. So if you can, be patient. Wait to find the deal that is right for you. As we've talked about in several videos, visit some buy, sell, trade threads. Maybe check out on Reddit, maybe check out on Facebook to see if anyone is selling something at a good price. Never rush to get something, and I promise you, you'll be a lot happier when you finally nab that piece you were looking for. Now, number 3, and this one is so very important, that is, don't go after multiple lines at one time when you're first starting out collecting. For Hot Toys specifically, they have the licenses for Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Terminator, and a few others. With that being said, when you're first starting out, find one line and stick to it and start with that. For me, I am a Star Wars fan, and Star Wars is the thing that I wanted to gravitate towards when I first started out. This actually was the first Star Wars Hot Toy that I ever picked up off of eBay. Because as I said, going back to number 2, and when you're patiently waiting for the right deals and to be able to find the right figures at the right price, it can become a full-time job trying to find the best deals for multiple lines. If you're constantly trying to find the best deal on a Spider-Man, while also trying to find the best deal on a Batman, while also trying to find the best deal on a Skywalker, I promise you, you will drive yourself crazy, you'll be frustrated, and you'll end up quitting collecting and quitting the hobby before you even got yourself started. So, as I said, number 3, don't go after multiple lines at once. And next up is one tip I wish I certainly knew once I first started out, and I promise you it'll be helpful if you apply this. Once you're first starting out, stick with that one line that you decided that you want to stick with for 1 year. After that, if you're still above water, you're not drowning, you're still liking your collection, then you can find out ways that you can expand it and continue to grow on that. But yes, give it a try for 1 year. Now, this is a hobby of patience. As we've talked about before, with these announcements and these pre-orders, by the time you get hyped about a figure, you may even forget that you even ordered the thing by the time it ships and comes back out to you. With that being said, is that make sure that by the end of the year, you can see if how many pre-orders do you really have? How many figures do you actually have? Are you in debt? Have you been able to pay these things off? Do you like what you're doing? If that's the case, and you can check all the boxes off and you say, you know what, I'm enjoying my collection, I have a manageable amount of pre-orders coming in my pipeline, I like the ones I've had, I've not overpaid, my credit cards aren't maxed out, then you can say, okay, maybe I can go to another line and start adding in some Marvel pieces, because this is not a cheap hobby. I've said that multiple times before, and I'm not trying to make it seem that if you don't have the funds available, you can't be a good collector. But Hot Toys and 6-scale collecting are premium collectibles, and they do carry a hefty price tag. And I say that because I don't want any of our younger viewers out there to be discouraged in collecting. Very recently, I just did an Instagram questionnaire where I do an Ask Me Anything, and I was surprised by the number of responses of young people wanting to know about how to build their collections. I also was trolling on Reddit or Facebook recently, and I saw that a lot of people were asking people's age. And on that, when you do like one of the Reddit polls, I was surprised to see how young some of these collectors out there are. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. If you are in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, you have much more disposable income than someone who is a teenager or in their early 20s. And with that being said, we want to make sure that this as a collection is fun for you and something that you can do for fun and that you want to continue to build on and be proud of, and not something that stresses you out. Just because someone was able to go and buy 6 Tusken Raiders and 4 Death Watch Mandalorians and 5 Spider-Mans, you as a teenager may have said, you know what, all I can do is afford one Stormtrooper or one Clone Trooper, and that is perfectly fine because you are being responsible and you are able to say, okay, within this calendar year, I can budget this much for this many pre-orders and this many figures. And by doing that, I promise you, you'll be happier. And when you do have a little more disposable income, you'll be smarter on how to divvy those funds around. So as I said for number 4, choose a line and stick to it for a year. I promise you, you'll be a lot happier if you do. And wrapping up here with number 5, and that is to listen to experienced collectors and learn from them. Now, I am not an experienced collector by any means. Now, I've been collecting since I was 7 when I first got my uncle's toy chest, down in my grandma's basement. I've talked to you about that before, but I've only been collecting 6 scale figures and Hot Toys specifically for around 2.5 years. And, there's a lot of things I wish I would have done differently. And I'm going to be open and honest with you about that because, I've made some impulse buys. I've made some poor decisions. I've overpaid for things. And, I've chased some lines that I eventually sold that I wasn't happy with. I got them, I wasn't that happy with them. I kind of just followed the train of a few other people getting them, and that's one thing I wish I wouldn't have done. I wish I would have listened to myself today in this video saying, hey, be smart and learn from other experienced collectors. So with that being said, let's go over those 5 things one more time just so it gets instilled in your mind. Number 1, as I said, do not start your collection off with previously reissued items. There's a danger in collecting backwards. Number 2 is be patient. Find what you want, and take your time. Number 3 is don't go after multiple lines at once. Number 4, as I said, find a line and stick to it for 1 year. And finally, number 5, make sure to listen to experienced collectors and learn from them. If you do these 5 special tips, I promise you your collecting will be much more fruitful, you'll be much happier, and you'll stay in the collecting game a lot longer than most people do. Well, that's going to do it for us here today as we wrapped up the 5 best tips for new collectors. Hopefully there was something that you were able to learn and glean from this. If you are still with us at this point, make sure to comment down below with how long you have been collecting. I'm curious, I would love to know. And as before, as I said, we are on a quest for 2021 subscribers. I need your help to get there. So if you've not done so already, please make sure to give me a presumptive like, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, turn your notifications on, and I will see you in our next video.